I think, Patricia, let's start. So, again, a warm welcome to this DORA webinar, and we are glad to for our partners askblue to join this webinar and share their experience of their clients' challenges and how they were able to help them address those challenges. So I request Patricia to give a short introduction.
Thank you, Shreeji. So hello all, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time, and we hope that we can share some valuable insights to tackle your DORA challenges. Okay. So my name is Patricia Domingos. My background is from 12 years in corporate banking. So 1 year in wealth management, and 6 years ago I transitioned to consultancy, exclusively doing projects in digital transformation in the banking sector. Okay. So that's me in a nutshell. Shreeji.
Amazing. Thank you. I am a director within Thomas Murray. I am a director within the GRC practice. I'm leading the DORA service offering for Thomas Murray. So again, thank you, Patricia. A very quick introduction to who we are for people who do not know about Thomas Murray. So Thomas Murray, he has been in the financial service industry providing risk intelligence information to the post-trade life cycle. So basically providing monitorings of FMIs like CSD, CCPs, or transfer agents and corresponding banks to the custodian bank. So they have been in this business. They recently embarked on a journey to have a cyber advisory arm. So we are part of that. And my team includes a lot of people from Big Four, from law enforcement agencies. Thomas Murray has a platform also to support this. So in case if you have not heard about us, do hit our website to get more information. Patricia, you want to shortly introduce us?
So we are a consultancy company. Since day one, we have a very strong footprint in the banking industry. So we were founded by 4 partners, 3 from the Big Four and 1 that was a board member from Barclays. So we have been doing lots of work in banks, as you can see from our references. And we are present in Portugal, UK, and Brazil. And we've been on this journey to support our customers in every phase of the project that they need. We do a lot of tech migrations, core banking modernization, channel development. And we have big partners like OutSystems, Microsoft, and I think in a nutshell, this is it.
Amazing. And this is the reason why our partnership does make sense, as we provide complementary services from a compliance point of view, where we bring in our expertise mostly around the regulation, understanding of cyber, and askblue along with Patricia's team bring in significant experience of helping their clients in financial service in digital transformation. So that supports organization on the compliance journey.
Exactly. And understanding the business, what is required from the business, and how we can transform and support the challenges. Basically, that.
Super. So before we get started, just a quick poll of people who have joined us, from which part of Europe they are or any other part of the world you are joining in, just so that we get an understanding of the countries that are being represented right now. We'll give some more time for people to respond to this poll question.
So you can see the pool, and then you choose the option that you are in. So countries from
We just give few more seconds, 10 more seconds in for people to complete the poll. As I see numbers still updating, it seems we do have good amount of representation from all over the Europe, and there are few people not uh, outside of Europe. So really, thank you for submitting this response. We Like I said, there will be more poll questions. Please keep it interactive, and there is monitoring of chats. So now getting straight into the content. 5 minutes in, what we have planned for today is very quick recap of DORA. I think most of these organizations and participants are already well versed with what is DORA, what are the requirements, but we want to kind of bring everyone on the same page, because we do have a number of participants from outside of Europe who may or may not have understanding of DORA, or someone might be joining that may not have full understanding of these DORA requirements. So we'll take some time in kind of getting everyone on the same page as to what DORA requirements are, or we'll then bring in what we have seen key challenges that organizations are facing and how organizations are tackling it. So there'll be some recommendations. And then we'll give our key takeaways as we are nearing the compliance deadline. We'll hope that there is at least a slot for a short Q&A for people to raise questions, and we may be able to take them on. So like I said again, keep on sharing those questions. So overview of DORA. Uh, there are yeah. So the journey started from of DORA since 2020 as part of the digital finance strategy. The one of the objectives of DORA is to improve operational resilience within the financial entities, purely because the financial sector is so interconnected and also dependent significantly on ICT third parties providing services. The regulator introduced this regulation which have very prescriptive requirements, with which we'll see shortly, but it brings a number of financial entities, so close to 22,000 odd financial entities in the scope of DORA within Europe. So 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 great. I am just seeing that there are some people who are not able to get the audio, or they're not able to see the screen. Patricia gives me a thumbs up if this works for you. Super. And maybe the Thomas Murray coordinator, can you also validate the same either on the chat or through any other means? That would be great.
Okay, you can see fine. Well,
Super.
maybe if people can rejoin, leave and go ahead. Oh, but I think the slides are blank.
Yeah. Okay. Super. Uh, so as I was saying, that this brings a number of financial entities in the gamut of this DORA regulation, meaning that there is now a consistent approach to apply regulations within the various subsectors of financial service. So you be it banking, insurance, asset management, funds, CSD, CCPs, all of them would have similar sort of regulations.
And not only in the still in the previous slide. So the way that consumers nowadays consume financial services is mainly to technology driven. So it's on apps, it's on digital payments. So this justifies we have the increased volume of data being used by banking institutions, and this increased the cyber risks a lot. Okay, so in the financial sector is more prone, is more attractive to the cyber crime. So the regulation comes in place to try to make all the systems and all the IT providers that support the financial systems to be more more resilient and be able to recover from a major incident. One part very important, DORA is part of the European Commission, what they call the Digital Finance Pact that was launched on 2020. That also includes the MiCA regulation for crypto markets, the retail payment strategy. So this is a wave of regulation that it's not going to stop. It's the first one, and then we have the subsequent other waves that will occur also, even for sectors that are non-financial, like the niche 2 directive also in 2022.
Amazing. Thanks, Patricia. Just a quick overview of the key milestones at the deadlines. We know the Jan 17th, 2025 deadline, but it was a journey where the regulator came up with various sort of regulatory text. There are few regulatory texts that are not yet formalized by the European Commission that is gonna come in. So that's the tranche 2 of implementing standards. All tranche 1 implementing standards have been formalized by the EC. Now, for people outside of Europe and not very familiar with the regulatory text within DORA or EU. So you have a regulation that is applied for everyone, which is supported by regulatory technical standards and implementing technical standards. These are the documents that provides further guidance for organizations on the implementation of the regulation.
And also how to report what you have to report. So they already published in the end of July of this year the template in which the entities are obligated to do the reportings and establish.
Yep. And what are the potential risk of non-compliance? Well, the regulation has provided individual competent authorities to define how they will look at non-compliance, but at a regulatory level, the possibilities is administrative fines or public reprimands, withdrawal of authorization to a certain extent, putting them on a monitoring and asking them to remediate issues, or even compensatory damage. So the regulations is more holistic. What it is additionally doing is bringing in an oversight over critical ICT third parties in the gambit of the regulatory powers of the financials regulator. So what additionally DORA is doing is bringing in non-financial entities which are critical ICT third parties in the gambit of the oversight activities.
Exactly. And we know that being non-compliant, there is the monetary risk and the operational risks is there that must be addressed by the banks. So to assess in what state they are in to be compliant or not, and what is the penalties that are subjected to. But remind that, okay, penalties are there, but the main goal is to safeguard the very foundation of the banking business, right? Because if we know, if it comes to the market that a bank has some kind of critical issue that's not going well, I think the reputation it's a big issue in that case, because they can even withdraw the authorization to perform some transactions. So that is big.
Indeed. Carrie, sorry, there is a question from Georgie. Georgie, we'll come to your question at a later stage during the session. And for people who are just joining in, the slides will be shared, and this is also being recorded, so a recording will be made available. Now, again, a quick poll as to just where are you in terms of DORA compliance journey. If you could give a view, that would be great. Patricia, sorry, you were saying something?
it was the question that the one that you replied that we'll share it's recorded and we will share it. So this is how things are going. The state, if you are still in an initial step, or if you have, we hope that you are already quite advanced because the deadline is just around the corner.
We give last 10 seconds for people to just submit the response while it is coming up. Patricia, there are 32%. Most of the organizations have an ongoing program for DORA compliance, which is, I think, what we also see in the market. I don't know your thoughts on it.
Yes, I agree. I think already more half of our customers already are doing and already have implemented some processes related to DORA, even on the third party, because we noticed that the contracts that they have in place are more detailed and they are going into what is required. So I think 50%, half.
Yeah, I think there are 10% who are saying that they are ready for and 17, which is amazing. To hear that they feel in control. What I have seen is organizations really not feeling that comfortable, as there's an element of regulatory text being finalized. But if the organizations have managed all other aspects, the few open areas they should be able to tackle fairly quickly. For organizations that are evaluating initial steps for DORA compliance, or in the process of evaluating gaps and defining roadmap, I would strongly recommend to have a concrete DORA roadmap by 17 Jan, if not later, and have a process on incident reporting ready at least by then. Anything more to add, Patricia, on?
That's, I think, some backs, the backs that that did the less the one of the last year, the stress tests related to IT security are a little bit more advanced, because those stress tests solely on IT help them to be prepared for DORA. Is what we've seen in the rest of the world.
Indeed. Right. Moving on to the DORA requirements. DORA is broadly, they have requirements from towards financial entities in 5 areas. One is the ICT risk management, then incident reporting, operational resilience testing, third-party risk management, and information and intelligence sharing. Information and intelligence sharing is something that is not mandated yet. It is something that is an optional element, and all the other areas are mandated. Now let's look at ICT risk management framework. This is in my head one of the cornerstones of the DORA regulations, purely because it mandates financial entities to have appropriate governance, to have 3 lines of defense of model. It also mandates organization to put in a risk management framework that encompasses policies, provides explicit requirements of what needs to be in the consideration of internal audit, and also mandates organization to identify critical or important functions, mapping to assets, ICT third parties, because all of these forms integral part of all the other requirements. So I believe this is the cornerstone of the DORA regulation. And Patricia, anything more from your side on this specific?
And I think that the cornerstone is, okay, we need to assess every application, business functions, recovery response, and you have to evolve the work that is done there. Because if you just take a picture now and don't evolve it, don't update it, think that's the issue here. How to automatically prepare yourself to have all this information and those and automate the flow that is necessary, because you have to annually review your risk management framework is required. You must train your collaborators, so you need to put in place a plan to keep all this evolving.
Indeed. It's absolutely correct. This area is supported by an RTS on ICT risk management and simplified risk management, which provides detailed requirements as to what policy, procedures, plans organizations need to have, and what should be the content of it also, and how ICT risk management framework should be reviewed, and what are the reporting requirements around that. So fairly important piece of regulatory text from a compliance point of view. There is one more question in we'll come back to that question at a later stage when you're covering third party risk management. On ICT incident reporting, uh, again, in my experience of working in cybersecurity space and in consulting, I did have an opportunity to work on multiple incident response and also with incident respondents team. Uh, what what I think this regulation brings, which is very different from uh, the other regulations that we have, is it is providing guidance, detailed guidance on how to classify an incident. How does an incident become major incident? Now, this is something that has been provided at great lengths in one of these regulatory texts. Additionally, it also provides detailed on ICT reporting, ICT incident reporting, meaning that it is explicitly asking organizations to have a fixed reporting template, which I have not seen any framework or standard or regulations undertake. I think this is one of the most crucial chapter from a success point of view of the DORA regulation, as more proactive incidents or not proactive, or as incidents are shared and then widely shared between the markets by the competent authorities, it would become possibly a de facto standards of sharing threat related information and incident related information.
I would say that is how we share it, the information that is shared, because they demand to know even the financial part of it, what if customers were have affected by the incident, being if you give them more money or less money. So you need to establish that. Also, inside of DORA and this framework, it includes the incidents that are under the PST2 are also covered here regard to payments, and the test-led penetration that is mandatory, that banks need to do at least 1 year. I think this also is very important and like a second cornerstone, and how the regulators will use this information that is being shared. So, okay, the institution will share, and what will happen next to this.
Indeed, absolutely bang on.
If they will analyze if the way the response that the institution gave was correct or not, and if they will establish some recommendations on how to resolve those incidents. I think this is a question too.
Yeah, but it's to be seen on how actually at an operational level all of this will be operationalized once the regulation comes into force next year. Point. Moving on, the next one is operational resilience testing. This is this chapter or area provides requirements for organizations to provide document and test plan, technically testing that, again, both proactive controls and detective controls, whether they're operating fine or not. it also brings in a requirement of TLPT, which was earlier enforced in the banking sector with the TBER EU framework, but now they will the scope of this will be further expanded, where organizations will be notified based on their risk at an overall country level, and then at an EU level they'll be identified if they qualify for a TLPT, and then organizations will be asked to perform a threat penetration testing. So for organizations that are conducting regular vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, if they develop their own solutions and they're doing regular source code reviews, those kind of exercise, organizations would mostly be in compliance for this, apart from making some sort of documentation to bring in the risk elements tied with critical assets. So those elements. But a lot of organizations will now be part of TLPT, which is a regulatory assisted exercise, meaning that if they have not done a previous red team exercise, and they're not aware of how the process works, they will possibly be lagging behind in this exercise and may expose them to further oversight from the regulator. So organizations that believe that they might be in scope of TLPT based on the RTS, as to how the competent authorities will identify organizations in the scope of TLPT, I would recommend organizations to take proactive red teaming exercise, which is threat-led, so that they get a flavor of what goes in such a test, what are the outputs, how they can consume that information, how they can provide responses to such an exercise. It will just help them in their compliance journey.
It basically is to assess if they have the internal capability on building and defining the procedures to do the tests, and if they have the operational frameworks to do the regular test execution, the resource allocation, and to define the complexity, which application must be or not be tested. So I think it's like a true assessment.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. The last mandatory requirements is on third-party risk management. Now, this is specifically for ICT third-party risk management. Now, this requirement is for financial entities to have processes around due diligence, ex-ante risk assessments, the requirements around contractual terms, that the financial entities will have to work with ICT third parties in bringing that in place, having audit rights and terminations, including in the contractual terms. So this is from the context of financial entities and providing an oversight on their ICT third parties. There are few open areas that have yet to be clarified by the regulator. One of the very recent ones was around ICT third parties using LEI versus UID, which the EC has recommended to allow for both, but the ESAs, which is the supervisory authority of the DORA regulation, still pushing for use of only LEIs as an identifier. So this is one area that I believe it's not yet completely clarified by the regulator. There is still some open points to be addressed, but it's still a significant section of the DORA regulation from a compliance point of view, and it has some mandatory requirements around register of information, which the organizations would be expected to have ready by Q1 2024, as it needs to be reported to the ESA. So all the competent authorities need to report this by end of April 2025. So highly likely that most competent authorities will ask financial entities in their jurisdiction to have register of information ready by Q1 2025. Patricia, your thoughts on this?
My thoughts that it's important to highlight that this obligation to report and manage, it's to apply it to all the outsourced ICT providers, regardless of subcontracting. If you are subcontracting the resources to another company, even the resource is a person, a human being, you need also to have that provider register if the resources work on the have impact. Another thing is you need your providers, your third-party providers, to share and to be open to allow access of information, audits, and inspections. So they need to comply also to have knowledge about DORA and to know what are the impacts for their activity and the process that they need to put in place. They need to have recovery plans in place, data privacy, all of the things for your third parties.
Yeah, indeed. Um, uh, Indeed. So in the register of information, financial entities are expected to put in the full value chain, or the supply chain of the third parties, which it includes subcontractors also. So we need the requirement for the financial entities would be for ICT third parties to identify all their subcontractors, which could just be purely, as Patricia was alluding, resourcing providers. There were two questions which are linked to this area, so I would suggest we cover it, Patricia, right now. So the first one was, as the requirements to the critical service provider is very high, it is important to properly identify them. There are criteria to define a provider is critical or not, but sometimes it's blurry area. For example, Microsoft purposes to manage daily operations. Is this critical service provider or not? Well, the distinction that the regulation is bringing in is a bit nuanced here. What the regulation is saying is that if your ICT third-party providers is supporting a critical and important functions, then there are additional requirements that are to be applied. So it's not a critical service provider. It is if ICT third-party provider is providing service to critical and important function. That is the qualification here. The second nuance on this is, at a European level, the ESAs, through joint oversight teams, will designate critical ICT third parties. Now, these critical ICT third parties are critical ICT third parties from an overall European level, and they have a critical role to play in ensuring the stability of the financial markets and the financial entities in Europe. They will have a separate oversight by the joint oversight bodies, and there will be a remediation follow up. So the entire process is laid down for them. But this exercise will not be undertaken by an individual financial entity. It would be undertaken by the regulator through a joint oversight team. Hope that answers, Georgie. If it's still not clear, happy to address them. Feel free to drop a line to me and Patricia, and we can take it after that. The second question was, as UK FIs with EU clients are covered under DORA, do the reporting standards also apply? For example, providing a national competent authority, which one of the information reporting significant threats? I am not sure I fully follow it, but Patricia, my take on this is, given the question, the UK FI with EU clients are covered under DORA. So if you are an UK FI who is providing services to EU clients, the EU clients may consider that your services fall under ICT third parties. So there are list of ICT third parties that have been provided as a category in the RTS of Register of Information, or one of the regulatory documents. And if those services that you provide as a UKFI qualifies as an ICT third parties, then you would be expected to provide information around incidents purely through contractual terms. That's how I see it. I'm not sure, Patricia, your thoughts on it.
I agree with you.
Super. If there is still open clarification, do not hesitate to reach out. We are happy to address it at a later stage. Moving on, just conscious of time. Very quick poll questions. Uh, which of the areas are where you or your organization have spent significant time from a DORA compliance point of view?
So one needs to know what are the current challenges that you are facing in the DORA implementation.
Interesting. Yeah. We'll give last few seconds in to close the poll in. Well, while we close the poll in, Patricia, your thoughts that highest number of percentage have gone to managing implementation variation across group companies. The next most uh, effort has gone into populating ROI. So we are going to cover that challenge in detail. And then we also have a very close third, creating an inventory of business process critical functions, ICT assets, and ICT third parties.
So let's try to go and answer at least the incident reporting. Well, on our customers, but we are seeing one major difficulty. Well, the two major difficulties are to meet the timelines for the major incident reporting, not just for the 4 hours, but the 72. So they are seeing it difficult to have all the information and to be able to report within that time frame. And the second part is try to manage and identify all the providers on the ICT risk part. That's I would say that from our current customers, that are the two major difficulties.
Yeah. Oh, indeed. I think that's also somewhat reflected in the poll. But very interestingly, managing variations of DORA across group companies is also something that I kind of relate to, as we have heard this where different countries have smaller nuances that they have to accommodate for, and then to bring that under the same gamut of compliance becomes a bit challenging, requires a lot more conversation. So
and because the resources are different, the capability of a bank, it's not the same in every geography. So how far we will go to try to create a common standard of between all geographies, I think that's the third.
yeah, indeed. Thank you so much for participating in the polls. For people who have given their responses, appreciate it. Moving on, we gonna discuss 4 key challenges. One is around meeting the notification and reporting timelines. Then register of information, which was one of them. Ensuring organization-wide adoption of change due to DORA. So Patricia, we'll cover a bit of those. And then ICT third-party monitoring and risk assessments. Uh, on the first one, as Patricia was alluding to, also that in her experience, this is one of the challenges that a client have seeked advice on, and I can echo the same. Purely because once an incident is classified as major, the reporting timelines and starts, and the notification is in 4 hours. Now, this initial notification does not require a lot of data, but the intermediate notification, which is after 72 hours, and then the final notification after 30 days, does require a lot of information to be populated. Now, what we have seen is this information. So I'll give one of the examples. So number of counterparties impacted is something that that organizations are expected to populate in the intermediate notifications. Now, this is something that requires interpretation of the data from the systems. How are you going to determine which are counterparties? What is that definition? How will you classify that? So it requires some sort of business understandings and bringing non-technical teams into the gambit of your incident response planning to provide this insight in. What I'm trying to say is that requires a lot broader interdepartment cooperations during incident response. And remember, this is the time when the organization is dealing with an incident, so they are possibly under a lot of stress to bring business back to normal while providing these notifications. The other is estimating of losses after 30 days. It's going to be fairly challenging. How is it the organization is planning to? It requires possible inclusion of the finance team. There are guidelines on how to report losses now within the incident response piece also. So what we've seen organizations now do is have tabletop exercise that are more broader, with broader set of teams. So it's not just limited to your normal CSER teams of the organization. It does a lot more stakeholders outside of legal, outside of compliance, outside of risk. It is bringing in this business or operations team or finance level teams in the whole planning of incident response. So a lot of tabletop exercise have gone in for organizations, A, to be comfortable with the reporting timelines, and B, to be comfortable with whether they are able to meet all the notification requirements. And this has taken organizations significant amount of time. Patricia, your thoughts on this?
I agree with you. Can we move on to?
Yeah. Okay. The next one, populating register of information. Now, I think Patricia, before we should get going, just quick thoughts of us. I know there was a struggle on populating this register of information, and it all depends on how well the critical functions have been identified, and then your IT dependencies have laid down. Now there's a fixed template to start populating this. So organization has one struggle of populating this and then ensure adequate maintenance of the register of information through the compliance journey, because there is regular reporting around it. Patricia, what have you seen, and how are the clients managing this?
So they have 4 challenges that are identified there. It's the central data management, so how merging and consolidating the data from different sources. As you mentioned before, we need to bring probably finance, we need to bring other areas from the bank that are not just related to IT. So how you consolidate and merge that data, and what are the rules for that data to have security and to protect sensitive data. So it's difficult to maintain and try to govern all of this. Then the real-time automation. So we all know that manual inputs are prone to error, and these systems needs to be automated process. Okay. And then a fourth is the process and the ownership. So it's difficult to track the changes and to ensure the consistency of several people that are working and different departments, different perspectives of the same problem. Okay. So what we recommend and what the customers are doing is, okay, try to align your data governance framework and ensure not to create another silo. Okay, just try if you are for those that for sure already have data governance framework, try to incorporate the DORA requirements on it and not create a separate system or a separate layer. Okay, so it minimizes the duplication efforts and all across streams. So leverage your existing data policies, process, and tools. And a very important message that we are trying to pass is, okay, as mentioned before, this is a regulation wave that will keep occurring. So if you prepare earlier for it, so you ensure that every time that the system or the business change, you have a system in-house, a framework that can be scalable to other requirements. Okay, so you are prepared to evolve, to work with evolving requirements.
Yeah.
If you don't have the part of automation and the real-time data that you need to do, especially the 72 hours window that requires a lot of information and it's a short period, you need to get your real-time data with real quality. And if not, each time that you need to report something, the bank will stop just to do the report, and this is not feasible. Okay, so ensure that you integrate the requirements within your framework to be more resilient. For those that don't have a data governance framework, this is the ideal argument, is a very compelling argument to establish one. So try to think, and don't need to go big, so try to think on the foundations, the data quality, the security that you need to build. And if you become, instead of being reactive in managing your risks, you can be proactive if you have this kind of framework in place. Third thing, as Shreeji already mentioned, the cross-department collaboration. So you need to be cross-functional, cross-department with different units, such IT, risk management, legal, business, because one of the mandatory thing on the register is you need to link to have a map of every business function that you support, and you need to link this with every ICT services that it puts in place. So it's critical to identify these critical services and to have a business continuity plan for them. So you have to document dependencies that you have, set up and ensure that you have the process to recover from it. Implement access control, so to define who can access and update this register of information. Okay, so you need to guarantee that only authorized people can do it and can make change to it. So if you don't have it, basically data governance will save the world is the key thing to take away. And if you integrate this DORA principles, you will be doing by design, you will be more resilient in your regulation, in your framework.
Yeah, thanks. I think it totally makes sense that we, from a DORA compliance point of view, there are possibly existing practices around data governance that can be leveraged in order to maintain the various reporting requirements that are mandated by the regulation. So it does make sense that organizations adopt that principles.
Adopt what they have instead of build from scratch a new thing on the side. It's more easier, secure, and not have to do all the work again.
Yep. Going on.
Okay, this is the...
Yeah. So again, just to lay it out for you, Patricia, I think what we've seen, and this was one of the questions where, there are so many differences, variations that one needs to manage. An organization has to undertake a lot of process changes in order to be compliant. How can one go about doing it? Because it's not just doing it one time. It is, you have to maintain DORA compliance. So it is something that has to be baked into BAU.
Basically, the main takeaways. So, IT and business, or IT and other areas inside the bank, need to talk to each other. So, build a cross-functional team. And this is the first steps of change management adoption. So, you need to define your scope. So, you need to define the application. So define scope, plan, communicate, and test. So these are the 4 pillars. So the first one, you need to define your application criticality and estimate the effort of the impact of the changes that you need to do. So you basically need to do an effort assessment. And by the end, if you defined the application criticality with the effort, you'll have a matrix with the priority of what you need to tackle. So if you can push it forward, yes, determine which systems are critical and build a priority matrix. So if you are not yet fully compliant, you have less time. So you need to know where you're going to use your resource and time. So what we see in banks doing, is to identify not only in the perspectives of IT, but with business, with legal, with other areas of the bank, and say, okay, these ones are critical for me, and these are the ones that we need to act. The second part is to plan. Okay, so planning, estimate and develop a change management plan. So outline the change on the requirements, the associated resources, what are the expected timelines for the institution to do. It's similar to any other migration. And you need to establish a clear roadmap with clear milestones to know where you are and if you're on track or not. Okay. The other one is Shreeji. So the communication part, as we have been mentioning, IT, business, different cross-functional teams, it's crucial to appoint, and this is what we have been seeing on customers doing. So they appoint and designate DORA champions, one person in various different departments to promote the requirements and the adoption of DORA. And they build cross-functional teams, like a task force for DORA. Okay, this is something that also they are doing to ensure that everyone knows. Even they go further and they create, with the plan that we establish, the milestones, the roadmaps, the teams, like they create a shared compliance dashboard, okay, where they establish clearly which person are responsible, accountable, consulted, to avoid gray zones on this plan that is established. It's very important to everyone to know what the scope of their action is and to avoid the gray zones. And finally, the test part. So on testing phases, you can use 2 options that we have seen. So like blue team, red teams. So try to simulate an attack to your systems, one team to attack, another one to try to respond and to see what comes. So if you learn fast, fail fast, the more you try and the more realistic scenarios you try to plan and to do, the more ready and prepared you will be to respond in a real scenario. So to ensure that you keep testing, that's very important. We have seen customers that do quarterly workshops around it, and they try to define like 2 times in a year, 3 times in a year, where they do real, like it is a real testing pre-installation, like a real incident, and how to see how teams will work together and try to reply it, to see if the system they built is able to comply with the 72 hours, with the timeline to report.
I think it's adopting classical change management principles to, again, not reinventing the wheel, using already existing methodologies to, from a change management point of view, to bake in this DORA compliance and make it into BAU success. I think it totally makes sense. Moving on, just conscious of the time, we are just 2 minutes away. The last piece of the recommendation is on uh, monitoring of ICT third parties. Now, organizations may or may not already have a robust TPRM assessment approach. Now, because of this, on an average, it was noted in one of the surveys that on an average there'd be around 30 to 40 odd ICT third parties at an entity. I forget where I'm quoting this from, uh, but if the volume is significantly higher, then the operations of assessing such an ICT third parties become cumbersome. So adopt technology, adopt managed service offering. You would need a lot of SLA monitoring also. So all of these you can consider it, leverage technology as much as possible, or a managed service offering. Last poll in, just I know we've skimmed through this very quickly. If you, what are your thoughts? Are you very confident around getting DORA regulation, understanding of it, from a skill point of view? What is there some more intelligence or awareness sessions is required on DORA from if you could bring that up, that would be great. I suggest we keep the poll open for another 5 to 10 odd seconds. We just a quick note on summary. Patricia, I let you give your thoughts, and then I'll close it off.
Okay, so the principal takeaways. So align your internal frameworks with the DORA requirements. Don't do it as a silo. Okay, so leverage on what you already have. And if you don't have it, it's time to create it, because the another wave is coming. So other regulations are coming. So prepare for the future in order to not be every time suffering. For create a DORA team. So you need to spread the digital operation resilient mind around your organization. So try to simulate how to reply to the register of information, how to meet the reporting standards. So go and look into the templates that are already there and try to reply as it were in real life. If you don't have all the templates for all the regulatory, we can help you. We can assess and guide you on the best way to do it. But it's critical to build a cross-functional team, and it's critical for you also for you to educate your third-party providers. Okay, and I think the last one for the authorities notification.
Yeah, super. Just a quick note on the poll results. Most of them are fairly confident about their understanding of the DORA regulation, which is great for people who believe. And there are 5% who are DORA the explorers. I always like to use this poll just to call that first option out. So kudos to DORA the explorers. For people who are still think that they need to upskill, there are plenty of resources available to upskill on DORA. There would be some that we will share along with these slides. So do not hesitate to look into this. From my point of view, if I had to summarize, I echo what Patricia has mentioned. Just to kind of add a few more thoughts on it. Not every organizations would be compliant by Jan 17th. It's a journey. It's something that organization will have to undertake. However, I recommend organizations to be comfortable with a couple of things. One is their policy procedures document. The second is incident response. They have to be fairly comfortable that they are able to meet the requirements on an ICT incident reporting. B, the DORA recommendation, as Patricia can be leveraged to meet other regulatory obligations. Challenge the DORA teams at this stage. Challenge yourself if you are part of the DORA compliance team. As you near 17 Jan, just think, take a step back and reflect on the journey so far and what additional improvements needs to be done. Here are some examples that you may want to consider. The last and the more important thing is every competent authorities is setting up supervisory priority actions for 2025. For example, Central Bank of Ireland has indicated that their supervisory priorities for 2025 is mostly going to be focused around organizations having a concrete DORA roadmap, compliance roadmap. So they do expect that there would be some gaps. Maltese have indicated that they're going to focus on Article 5, which is around governance. So they're going to push financial entities to ensure that the governance is in place to take care of DORA compliance. We've seen a recent study by Luxembourg where a significant amount of organization had indicated in September that they are not ready for compliance. So they are of the similar view that they're going to look for robust compliance roadmaps. So if your organization and you are part of a team that have not yet achieved full DORA compliance, there are a lot of organizations in the same boat. There are few minimum things that you have to take care getting into 17th Jan. But it's a journey. Have a strong roadmap to demonstrate to the competent authorities. Unfortunately, we are not able to give responses to the questions at this stage as we are 5 minutes overboard, almost 5 minutes overboard. But there are few questions that we've not answered, and we will reach out to you separately to address those questions and answers. Thank you so much for staying in. Apologies for going overboard by 4 minutes. Hope you've enjoyed it. As indicated, the recording will be made available along with presentation. And Patricia, thanks again for your insights and your time. Lovely to have you on this webinar. Thank you so much.
And thank you, everyone. And we hope that we make your DORA journey compliance a little bit more easy, if it's possible.
Thank you so much. All have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.